it's really like, educating the body in new frequencies is really like training a dog. You tell the dog sit once, you sort of sit, 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 sit. What the omnis represent is like you're saying the word sit, but it's carrying 20 or 30 sit commands with it on all frequencies. So it's like it's going into the whole dog's thing. So its capacity for learning or imprinting on the dog is that much stronger. And it's like, it's a bit rude, but we are a little bit like that. Someone says, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But after the 10th time, maybe we listen, or if we're smart the first time. But if we're
It's like the
learning a new skill,
Pavlov's
it's
dog
totally
or whatever.
Pavlov dog, but this
It's
time
like
instead of
Pavlov's dog in a bottle.
no, totally. It's like to save Pavlov all that time and effort of bell ringing and rats running through mazes and salivation at food and like whatever. I just tell it once and then okay, it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't get the signal the first time.
Yeah, we will give you a super potent signal so that you don't have to keep telling the dog and ringing the bell and rats running through mazes and whatnot.
So
It's a bit tedious.
that's what the Omni Tech is really
It's
about. It's like
about. It's
super
like sending a
strong.
really powerful message. Well, I mean, look at it this way. It's like if you took a stone and dropped it in the water, it would create a ripple. That's what homeopathy is, normal homeopathy. This is you're taking like a grapefruit and you're hurling it at the water. You're creating a wave, a major pulse that's going through the whole body. So it's a stronger. It if you talk about the layers, the different bodies, it'll echo through all the layers as opposed to just, for example, a physical dose of whatever, chili. Let's just take chili, for example. Now, capsicum chili is used for homesickness homeopathically, right? So if you're taking a dose, if you're eating raw chili, you're just getting a physical effect. It burns the mouth, you get some endorphins generated, you feel maybe a bit better. I would say give homeopathic chili to someone who's feeling a lot of homesickness, a 10 a 10,000 dilutions. Whereas if I made an omni of it, I would give that to cure the feeling of feeling homesick in general for people who have a major longing of feeling homesick. So it would actually have a much deeper action and be used to have a much wider scope of action. Are you with me? This is what we're talking about here. I mean, that's like curative. A lot of what I'm talking about with the omnis is the fun aspect of it. Like, okay, well, what do I actually want in my field? What do I actually want to actively incorporate into my field? What sort of superpowered substances are there that I actually want to have as my pips, my stripes on my shoulder for that are actually a part of me, my delicate tattooing. The passions overcome get worn as adornment. It's like this is okay, now what adornments do I actually want? My peacock feathers, what shape and color and look, well, what will they look like? What do I want to have there? But it's not just color, it's actual skills bank. It's a thousand petaled lotus, which we can then draw and say, okay, I'm going to draw on this particular frequency because I've tattooed it into myself. I can then use that, and then at any point I can say, well, this is what's I'm going to draw on the skill intuitively because it's a part of me. I don't have to learn how to drive. I don't have to learn how to pick up a phone and use it. I've learned these skills. They're now a part of my field. But this is going beyond saying, okay, well, I now choose to incorporate certain, whether it would be lion's milk or, the butterfly wing or, the mandrake as a plant or certain orchids or there is no limit or love. I choose to embody love, so I'm going to make love as a remedy and I'm going to consume it until you become love, and you've got it there. And maybe you every now and then need to have a top up just to remind yourself of that frequency. But I mean, if you got a little bottle of love and you're feeling unloved, and you just pop a bottle of, oh, I'm feeling fabulous again. And then if you're feeling fabulous, it's moment by moment anyway. Who cares what else is happening in the universe? You're enjoying yourself, and in that enjoyment of yourself, you're going out into the world having a fabulous time. As the Chinese say, no error. It's really that moment by moment management. If in that moment of death you're feeling fabulous and comfortable and relaxed and not worried, then of course your reincarnation is going to be positive. Whereas if you're feeling anxious and worried in that moment, or fearful or afraid or in a state of anger, that's going to be your incarnation. And it's
Do you think DNA tattooing is for those who are
for
absolutely certain
everyone.
for
It's for
of what they want? Because I mean,
everyone.
how do you remove a
well,
DNA tattoo?
well, I mean, obviously you're not gonna. tattoo like slug piss onto yourself unless you want it as part of your nature. And if you're gonna tattoo cockroach onto yourself, well, I mean, fair enough. If that's really what you want to do. Cool, but we've got to allow people a bit of self-governance here. It's like we've got to say to them, well, look, I trust the fact that you want the substance in you enough. I mean, it's the same as doing a tattoo on people's skin. They tattoo that on, and then it's visible to the whole world forever. And maybe they no longer want this picture of the scorpion stabbing a dragon on their arm when they're working for a bank, but they've got it, and if they want to remove it, they've got to laser it off. But I think people would take a bit more time and care with like, okay, well, what do I actually want to incorporate into myself? And obviously, if you don't want it there, it'll be there, but it's not going to be active necessarily. But people will be like, okay, well, what do I actually want on inside me? What do I want to form? But for me, it represents like the wardrobe. Yeah, it's like, yes, I'm going to put on my red top today because that's what I feel like wearing. Yes, but just knowing it's in the wardrobe, even if I never wear it again, it's still there. Yeah, and I still have the option. It's not going to fade or get old or whatever. And if I need the red top because I need to go out and do something with a red top on, it'll always be there. I mean, you got to allow people some amount of self-governance. Otherwise, one's just treating them as muppets, saying, "Oh, you have no control over your reality, and you're a victim, and the Illuminati are going to come screw you over, and blah blah blah." You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you got to give them. If they're not willing to take up the arms in the first place, they really shouldn't even be in the ballpark. And if they are in the ballpark, you got to trust that they know what they're doing enough. Yeah? And I would argue everyone's got those one or two special substances they would like to incorporate as part of themselves, whether it's butterfly wings or, I don't want to like club a dolphin and use its blood, but if you could get some dolphin's blood, dolphin's milk has been made. I mean, I don't have the crude, so I'd have to make Omni from that on up, but you could make the dolphin's milk, and a lot of the stuff around dolphin's milk is around telepathy, yeah, interestingly enough. So, yeah, I mean, those sorts of frequencies I mean, we're talking the cities now, we're talking the powers. This is what the omnis are about to get those powers. That's what it's about. Yeah.
So
I mean, between you and me.
how did you discover the omnis? And
The fruit of my genius, Amanda. The fruit of my genius. Well, I asked. It came to me on the mountain. I was lying there. No, it was just, yeah. It's a long story. I must keep the actual construction of them a bit of a secret. But it just occurred to me, as any flash of insight is, like, okay, well, it came to me as part of the breaking of homeopathy, the moving beyond homeopathy, of saying, like, my maxim's always been rapid and gentle, the homeopathic maxim, but my mission has always been, okay, how can we facilitate a process and make it as fast as possible? So people don't have to spend 10 years taking remedies before they're actually clear of it. Why can't we do it in 6 months or 3 months or a year max? So part of it has been to accelerate the process. And it's like, well, okay, this will radically accelerate the process by bringing in certain energies which allow you to, yeah, you're enlisting allies essentially. You're saying, okay, well, I acknowledge that maybe I don't want to protect my flank over there because I want to be over here, dancing and having fun. So I'll enlist the scorpion, for example, I'll tattoo it in so it can be watching my back while I'm doing other stuff. Or what I've seen with the salvia, I must get you a bottle of this stuff, it's pretty radical. It's like, actually, I'm not even going to worry about the negative stuff because it's not even part of my reality anymore. I don't even think about it because I don't need to. Sure, I still tie up my camel, but I have faith that it'll be fine because I feel there's no. You know what it took away? It took away the anxiety, any residual anxiety I had, just slight flinching from the not trusting of reality. That's what it took away from me I think by going back to reclaim my power from some of these points where I'd flinched and created the state of tension in my body. That's what it was. It was a slight fear. And the salvia goes back to those points and like you revisit them and then you taste it, and like by retasting it, you almost rid yourself of it. It's very homeopathic in that sense. They're going back to a similar thing, but it's also because it's a plant medicine that's smart. You don't need to say, okay, now I've got to go back to this remedy, this state, and then this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, because it all states. It's like it's the grand overseer. It goes back and it views that state. You know what? I'm reading the Salvia book, and what comes out of it is it's like they talk a lot about the virgin whore in the brothel temple. Yeah, it's like it contains both dualities of those things in itself, and yet there is no conflict. Yeah, so it's almost like the breaking of duality is like, okay, well, you're going to be both of these things. You're going to be the priestess and the prostitute at the same time, yeah, and there will be no conflict in these things because you've tasted both, and then you can go back having revisited that. I mean, I would say that's just part of the archetypes. Then there's like the Yeshi Togyo, the magic love drum. There, those archetypes which also need to be incorporated. I mean, I'm just talking for women. For the masculine, it's a different story. It's not different. It's just different archetypes, different people. But it's incorporating all these aspects into ourselves. So it's like it's almost a pity it's not in the femme fatale mix because it really would go down nicely for that. But let's run with the ABC. I mean, what I really see now is karma burn clearing, ABC new imprint, the shamanic six pack playing with the dualities and incorporating it. And this is one of, I mean, Aziboga is the masculine grandfather, Salvia for me is the grandmother. But it's also the child. But it's got images of corpse babies, yeah, still alive, and then slowly turning into the beautiful woman, and then turning into the grandmother and dying. So it's got the full life cycle as well. It's very much like the drinking from the well of knowledge is that, and they talk a lot about this plant as being returning to the tree of knowledge, and from this tree are born all the other medicines. So it's like the original, the root thing, the root tree from which all other things are born. I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, I've taken it for a week now, and I've taken it while I've been reading this book on Salvia by Russ Heaven, and it's been very powerful because it's a very subtle remedy. It's powerful, but for example, like I was figuring out, okay, Simon turned me down on um, the Omni Ultra Tech because he's too busy. He's running his medicine journeys now, and so okay, so who do I want to be part of this? So I put out the thought the night before, and then I took the Salvia, and then I ran into this guy Chris, who's a designer, the next day as when I'm busy. He works at a health food store, and it's like, okay, what's his format? Oh, he's a Sagittarian Earth Dragon, and I was thinking just the day before, oh, it'd be nice to have a dragon as part of this movie, just for the power they bring. And it turns out he's a designer. But it's like, and then I ran to 6 or 7 or 8 people I hadn't seen in ages, just in the same day, in the same space. It's almost like they were put there for me at the same time, and I could pick and choose. Well, actually, I don't feel like speaking of that one, but I feel like speaking of this one because, and then out of that came a whole lot of stuff. So just the potential lines of connection. If you want to view Sylvia as like going back to the point of retaking one's power from those events where there was like a split or there was a fracture and pain or a bad relationship or whatever it might be, that whole, going back to reclaiming one's power from that so that from this day forth you go forward in an open heart. I mean, another example, Simon and I go swimming on the beach. And then we're like about to go swimming, and these two girls come in paddling, and normally I never would have done this. I said, "Can we have a go on your canoe?" And they're like, "Sure." Well, we'll all be on the other beach. Bring the paddles to us when you're finished. And it's like normally I would have been too, but I just jumped right in there, and because I was open about the whole thing, and I clearly wasn't a thief. I wasn't gonna steal their boat or their paddles or anything. They were like, "Cool, yeah, take it." And then took the pedals back, like, oh, where'd you get it? Now we're gonna get a boat. Yeah, we're gonna get a little canoe, like a sea kayak we can go. And it's like, okay, well, Nikki was also interested, this friend of mine. Okay, she'll pay a quarter, Richard will pay a quarter. We do it 4 ways, we all get our own pedals. It's like just a thought, which would sometimes normally stay a thought. It's like, then starts to grow and build and actually take form and reform and come back. Like
That's
the example
beautiful.
of the Iboga book, like I was
Like
talking to you
not
and
much
Ursula about that.
hesitation in a way.
No,
It's
I
from
just
you and
wrote it like,
reality.
let's write a bloody book on Iboga. It hasn't been done, let's do it. And I was like, and all of a sudden I could see you were getting into the whole project. It's like, okay, the book, Iboga speaks, now we've got a title, and Ursula's like, documentary stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, bring in Tony, bring in Simon because they're both interested in it. And it's like it would be a community project essentially to bring this into form. I've written a book, it's a headache, it's a nightmare, but I'll quite happily oversee it. I mean, I feel quite a lot of affinity with Iboga because of what it brought me, the the Dakini Tantras and like what it showed me and like healing with my mother. So I feel like I'm one of the Iboga priests in a sense, but it doesn't mean I want to do the whole editing the book. Yeah? And I mean, I don't know if you have time for it either, but and it's just a thought, but it allows that thought to grow and then almost take form. That's the energy of this salvia. So I think for you it'll be very beautiful for you, yeah, when you
It's
take
like
it.
a
And it's
grand creator, isn't it? It's very
it's the
much.
grand
I
creator,
like the
yeah.
mother, the feminine, the mothering kind of
Grandmother. But it's
that
also very ruthless. It's very
mother.
ruthless. You know, the first time I took it, it that's when I had this fight with Shane. I told you about that. He posted this picture of himself
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah, I saw that.
And the second one, he posted another one selfie, and I was like, the demon of self-absorption is the most tedious of demons, yeah? And he got all like huffy, oh no, it's art, and blah, blah, blah. But I just couldn't stop myself. It's like my wrathful deity came out and saying, Shane, stop being such a self-absorbed little prick, yeah? It's like, you're not that pretty to look at, no one's interested in you posting pictures of yourself in the mirror. I just couldn't stop it. It just came out of me. It's like, but that's after the selfie.